Imagine a towering pillar of solid bronze, hollowed out, and packed with burning charcoal until the metal glows a furious, blinding red. Now, imagine being forced to walk barefoot across it, or worse, being forced to hug it. Your flesh chars instantly. The smell of burning bone fills the grand courtyard, but the man on the throne doesn't blink. He just takes another sip of wine, completely captivated by the giggling woman at his side. To them, this isn't an execution. It's the evening entertainment. History is filled with madmen, but few manage to turn an entire empire into a personal torture chamber disguised as a party. This is the story of the ancient world's most notorious ruler, the Tyrant King, and by his side, the wicked Concubine. Together they didn't just break the rules of humanity, they roasted them alive. But how did a golden empire fall into such psychotic depravity? Believe it or not, the Tyrant King wasn't born a monster. In fact, he started out as the ultimate golden boy. He was the heir to an ancient dynasty that had ruled for over 5 centuries. This wasn't some weak, pampered royal. Ancient records describe him as a physical titan, a towering giant of a man who could supposedly tear wild beasts apart with his bare hands, and outdebate the smartest scholars in the royal court. When he first took the throne, he was unstoppable. He expanded the empire's borders, crushed rival tribes, and brought unimaginable wealth flooding back into the capital. The economy was booming, the military was unmatched. By all accounts, he was destined to be remembered as one of history's greatest conquerors. But there's a funny thing about absolute power. It doesn't just corrupt, it gets terribly, horribly boring. Having conquered the known world, the Tyrant King ran out of things to fight. He grew arrogant, he stopped listening to his advisors. Why take advice when you're practically a god? And then he met her, the concubine. Legends would later claim she wasn't human at all, but a malevolent, shape-shifting fox demon sent by the heavens to destroy the empire. Whether she was truly a demon or just a master manipulator, one thing is certain. The moment the Tyrant King laid eyes on her, the brilliant conqueror died, and the madman was born. To win her favour, he would do anything. To hear her laugh, he would burn the world down. To satisfy his new obsession, the king didn't just throw a party. He engineered a paradise of pure, unadulterated gluttony. History remembers it as the lake of wine and the forest of meat. Imagine an actual man-made lake, large enough to sail boats across, but filled entirely with strong, intoxicating liquor. Surrounding this lake wasn't a tranquil garden, but a literal forest of roasted meats hanging heavily from the branches of trees. Day and night blurred into one endless, deafening carnival of excess. But even the wildest parties get old, and the wicked concubine was notoriously hard to please. She needed something sharper, something darker. She rarely smiled, and her apathy drove the king completely insane. He needed something that would finally make her laugh. Enter the bronze pillar. The concept was as simple as it was demonic. Whenever a loyal minister dared to criticize the king's spending, or whenever a peasant failed to pay a tax, they were dragged into the grand royal courtyard. A massive, hollow bronze cylinder was erected directly over a pit of roaring, white-hot charcoal. To make the game completely unwinnable, the glowing metal was slathered in slippery grease. The victims were forced to walk barefoot across this sizzling surface. The heat was so intense that their skin would begin to blister before they even took a step. If they slipped, and they always slipped, they plunged into the searing coals below, roasting alive in front of the entire silent court. Sometimes, for extra amusement, prisoners were simply forced to hug the glowing pillar, their flesh melting instantly against the bronze, and as the sickening smell filled the air, and the victims screamed their final agonizing breaths, the concubine would finally do it. She would throw her head back and laugh. Her beautiful, melodic giggle became the twisted soundtrack to the empire's suffering. The more gruesome the death, the louder she laughed. Soon the paranoia set in. When his own uncle, a respected and legendary sage, begged the king to stop this madness and save the collapsing empire, the tyrant didn't just execute him. He ordered the old man's chest to be sliced open while he was still breathing. The king casually told the court he just wanted to see if a genius truly possessed a heart with 7 chambers. He turned anatomy into an act of supreme sadism. But out in the provinces, karma was coming. While the king was busy burning his subjects a quiet nobleman from the western borders, decided enough was enough. Let's call him the rebel commander. He rallied the starving peasants and the furious lords. Word spread like wildfire. The mandate of heaven had been broken. It was time to drag the tyrant off his throne. The rebel commander marched toward the capital, but the tyrant king wasn't worried. He ordered his massive army to crush the uprising, but the king had miscalculated one crucial detail. His soldiers hated him just as much as the rebels did. When the two armies finally met, something unprecedented happened. The tyrant's frontline soldiers dropped their weapons, turned around and joined the enemy. They marched right back to open the gates of the capital. Back in his lavish palace, the music stopped. The wine tasted sour. The tyrant king looked out from his highest balcony and saw the smoke rising from his crumbling city. He knew exactly what they would do to him if they caught him alive. So in a final act of dramatic madness, the king retreated to his most extravagant pleasure tower. He gathered his jewels, wrapped himself in jade, and ordered his servants to set it on fire. Karma is a ruthless judge. The man who had taken so much joy in roasting his victims alive on the bronze pillar was consumed by his own inferno. He burned to ash alongside his treasures, his empire, and his legacy. As for the wicked concubine, the rebels found her cowering in the ruins. There was no trial, no mercy, and certainly no laughter. The rebel commander ordered her immediate execution, ending her dark spell over the realm forever. The lake of wine evaporated, the forest of meat rotted away. But the story survived as a chilling reminder. Those who build their thrones on the burning bones of their people will inevitably end up in the ashes themselves.